Mike's quick writing here. He's getting ready for this.
I'm just trying to write a few notes. Okay, weather-wise segment for today. We're going to talk a little bit about the monsoon seasons. Again, so if you hear a lot about it this time of year, typically this is the time of year where we begin to pick up those afternoon showers and thunderstorms, big soaking rains, and we pick up about 50 to 60% of our annual rainfall during this, say, 2-month period. Okay, the Weather Service has come out with just a general date for this, and they said about the 15th of June through the end of September is, quote, around when the monsoons should start. However, obviously that's not the case. So what we're seeing now is a late start. Here we are going into the 20-something?
Last week in June, basically.
Okay, so let me just start with what we look at, or what I look at as far as the official start of the monsoons for us, is when we get 50-degree dew points or better for 3 days in a row. Okay?
Okay.
That's telling me that we're starting to get that low-level moisture that's starting to come in, that's starting to saturate the lower atmosphere. Because if you don't, then you get the moisture that evaporates, and we call that
Virga.
Right, Virga. And when you saturate the lower atmosphere, then all of a sudden you get those big soaking rains. Now, we've seen that in spots already, but overall here in the metro and across the central parts of the state, it just hasn't happened to this point. Now, remember, the monsoon definition is when you shift from the southwest winds, and monsoon is talking about the reversal of those wind speeds, wind direction. So we go from the southwest to some sort of an east component, whether it be northeast, east, southeast, or south, somewhere in there. Why? Because we want to bring in the moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. We've got to bring that into the state. Now, we're seeing some of that already in the eastern part of the state with the dew points in the 60s, but we can't do that here. Let's go ahead and let me show you a couple of graphs. I had a question as to why is it that we use the dew points instead of the relative humidity as far as here in the desert when we're forecasting the rain chances, specifically the monsoons. All right, I want to show you. You see the top lines. You see the lines up on the top. Those are the dew points. Okay? And then the red lines are the actual temperatures. Notice that there's a big gap between them. But on the bottom there, that line was the dew point line, and that's just a graph. It just goes up very gradually and steadily. So you can monitor that very, very quickly. Now, generally speaking, the Bermuda high that sits off to the east, and what we call the thermal low, because of the very hot temperatures in the desert southwest there, that adds moisture to us. But that's a general pattern. That works really good in Arizona. For us, though, it doesn't work as good. Okay, what works better for us is what I'm going to show you here in just a second. I want to show you this because I want you to see how this happens. When we see the thunderstorms form over the mountains on the left-hand side of the screen, you get those going, and of course the thunderstorms are going to cool the atmosphere a little bit. That cooled air is going to come down. You see that blue line coming down the mountains into the valley. Okay, so there comes a cooler air, and then the warm air wants to rise. That warm air rises, and it forms more thunderstorms. That's why here, especially, we'll see storms developing along our Sandias, and then all of a sudden you'll see them develop back on the West Mesa, and then they come across the city.
I see.
That's what happens, okay? So for us, we look at different things, mainly the high pressure, where it is across the country, and that helps bring in that Gulf moisture for us. So there's a general look at why we haven't gotten the monsoons and what we need to expect when we do.
Okay, good. Thanks a lot, Mike.